We're live, pal.
Happy Thanksgiving, happy Black Friday. This is so exciting. Hopefully y'all have done all your shopping and you're ready for some fun. We are talking about movies that we're thankful for. We're going to have a really fun discussion and I am joined today by, of course, Ryan is here.
Hey, Rachel. Happy late Thanksgiving, Black Friday to everyone. I hope everyone had a great day with family, friends, whatever. Just surrounded by nice things, loved ones, etc., etc.
Yes. And Patrick is here.
Hey, ditto.
Yes. And it's going to be fun. Today we're talking about movies that I refer to as foundation movies. They're movies that made us fall in love with cinema, and it's going to be really fun to talk about them. And we'd love to hear your comments. If you're watching, we want to hear your questions, what your picks would be. And I have a bunch on Twitter that people have shared, so I'm excited to share those. And so it's going to be fun. But yeah, I hope both of you had a nice Thanksgiving. It was such a contrast from last year, because last year it was just me and my mom and dad. And then this year it was two of my sisters were in town. One of my brothers was in town. We had quite a big spread. Plus, we have one of my sisters vegan. My mom's gluten free. I have to have low salt. So there was like all kinds of stuff.
Like Frankenstein's laboratory of like, okay, we gotta get this thing right here. We gotta decrease pressure there.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, because I mean, Thanksgiving food is like the worst for when it comes to salt. Like everything is so salty.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like the one day of the year where we can just eat junk and no one judges us for it.
Yeah. Very true. Well, and not only that, like I'm always interested in the people that choose something other than turkey, because I think they're the only honest people during Thanksgiving, because it's the worst bird of all time, right? Like nobody likes to eat turkey, and I don't know why we're putting ourselves. It's like daylight savings. Why do we do this to each other?
It's so hard to make it moist. It's almost always dry.
Patrick, if you've ever seen the movie 1776, if you can believe that, Benjamin Franklin almost named the national bird the turkey. It was between the eagle, the dove, and the turkey. And John Allen was like, the eagle. And then Thomas Jefferson, who had the dove, was like, the eagle. And then Ben Franklin was like, the turkey. And John Adams is like, the eagle is a noble bird. And then Ben Franklin goes on this diatribe of the eagle is a poacher and a vagrant. The turkey
this is why he wasn't president. They were like, this is why we didn't nominate you, Ben. Sit down.
The turkey was a noble bird who would happily charge into a fleet of redcoats. And so the national bird will be, and then he goes to say the turkey, and John Adams is like, the eagle. And Ben Franklin's like, the eagle. Like, what?
It's awesome.
Yeah, I love 1776. It's so good.
It is so good.
It deserves a little more. It took flights. I mean, it started the momentum that allowed Hamilton to take flight. It deserves more credit than it gets.
1776 walked, so Hamilton.
Yes, you got it. That was I was trying to say. You did it much more eloquently than me. But yeah, it's a really fun. I actually reviewed it for Family Movie Night a couple of years ago. It's a good one. So we tried to keep our selections as far as foundation movies at 2 streaming movies, because that's kind of our hidden gems kind of thing. So but we'll tell you hopefully where you can watch them, where you can get them in. It'll be interesting to see. We haven't actually talked, so we may have some of the same, we may not, we don't know. So it's gonna be interesting. But why don't you start, Patrick? You're first on your list.
Oh snap! Okay, so this was kind of interesting because Rachel, the last show we did like a ton of rapid fire movie questions.
Yeah,
and I think some of those were talking about foundational movies. So I was like, I don't want to just wrap off the same stuff that I've already talked about, but I do still have those on. But I was thinking, what are some that are more like you know how there's the ones that really are like, okay, this is informative, and there's the ones that kind of like awakened it, and that doesn't mean that they're like the best films for you, but they're the
Right.
ones that gave you maybe a challenge, whether it was like a small little thing to be like, oh wow, this movie could, it changed my perspective on, this trope or this genre, and I'm more into it. And so there's a few of those that I have, and I'm going to start with one that I don't think anyone has on their list. It's called The Bucket List. It's with Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. And I don't know, in the spirit of like this season where it's just camaraderie, it's friendship, it's friendships that might not be family, but still in a sense have that connective bond. I think The Bucket List, it's on Sling, Fubo, on Prime Video too. You can rent it on Prime Video. It's one of those films that just feels good to watch. You just have a warm feeling the entire time. And seeing like the perspective from somebody that's a little bit older in their years, so they're starting to see like the moments pass by, and maybe their body just isn't working the same way that it used to. And to see those two people decide, you know what, screw it, let's make a list of all the craziest stuff that we can do, and let's just start knocking them off one by one. And those two actors are so much fun in their performances.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen that one, but I've heard of it. But I love that it's on your list.
I would check. I was going for the ones that maybe aren't on lists because we just don't talk about them that much anymore. But like Bucket List for me, it's still really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Red from Shawshank Redemption and Jack Torrance in the same movie. You got
right.
This is one of my mom's favorites. Like she has like 3 or 4. She like watches no movies pretty much. She has like 3 or 4 go-tos. It's like Jaws, Nights in Rodanthe, which is this really obscure rom-com with Diane Lane and
I have seen that.
And Richard Gere. And The Bucket List is one of them. She actually had it on last night on AMC, and
really?
I have seen like the same scene where they're like racing those Camaros in a speedway. I can't remember which one, and Morgan Freeman's antagonizing him like, "You're up, chicken man," and
the weirdest jokes that are like, I guess this works. Like it works so, like you saying, like all of our parents I think would enjoy this movie, and that might be why I liked it so much, because it just kind of reminded me of the moments where I was sitting like on the floor while my parents were on the couch watching a movie, right? And you can just be all together as a family and watch something, and everybody has something that they can enjoy out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love movies. I mean, obviously I cover Hallmark movies, so I love movies like that. Well, I have actually 2 movies that I don't recommend, that I actually didn't like, but that were like formative in kind of developing my opinions on film. Anyway, that I thought I'd talk about before I dive into my list. And one of them is the first movie that I really remember just like strongly disagreeing with my friends on, that they all enjoyed and I thought was terrible, was Armageddon. And I remember watching it with my friends. Yeah, I remember watching it with my friends, and I vividly at my friend Meredith's house, and we're all looking around, and they're all like, "Oh, and I'm like, that was terrible. They had a love scene with animal crackers. I mean, this was bad," and so that was very memorable. And I just remember sitting in the room, and they were all talking after, and I was kind of like. And I think that's a memorable moment for any kind of critic when you have that.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I vividly remember was when we went to see the movie Chocolat. And I went with my friends, and I did not care for it. I didn't like it. It's been years since I've seen it, but it was. I thought that the way that they portrayed the like religious character was a caricature. And I thought that that I can't remember exactly everything, but I didn't care for it, and particularly the way it handled religion in the movie. And I was talking with my friends all about it, and I'm like, oh no, and one of my friends says, Rachel, we just wanted to enjoy the movie. And I was like, oh, because for me, like the talking about it, that's how I was raised, and that's how I was used to talking about movies, and it was a big eye opener to me that like not everybody liked movies that way. then not everybody liked to kind of dissect it and analyze it and talk about it. And I was like, okay, I'll just keep my feelings to myself. And that was before we had the glory of online communication, for better or worse. So those are two that were pretty memorable for me as far as sort of shaping my opinions on film, memorable moments. So I don't know if you two are Armageddon defenders, but
man, I don't think I'm strong enough in an opinion of Armageddon to be defending or attacking. It's just like, yep, it did happen. That is a movie.
Yeah. I was like, this is such a stupid story.
I've never seen it. However, I know two things from it: the Aerosmith song, which is always awesome, and this one line where one guy goes, "This is NASA. We double up on everything here. We don't take chances." And I was actually at the Kennedy Space Center a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, they do double up on everything around here." And I always like to think in my head when people are like, the great movies like from Neil Jordan or Akira Kurosawa, and I think to myself, the Criterion Collection has The Rock and Armageddon, as well as RoboCop. And one day
didn't Malignant just get added to it too?
No, it's in its current state right now. I just love to be like, hey, Michael Bay has more movies in the Criterion Collection than Akira Kurosawa. Bring it.
That is exciting.
I've never seen Armageddon. I think I will be reviewing it because his new movie Ambulance is coming out in February, so I think I would like to see it. But I trust your opinion, Rachel, so I'm not excited.
Did you all ever have that kind of experience where you're with like a group of friends and everybody else is really digging something and you're like, oh, I don't like it?
Every time I walk out of a press screening, because I gotta walk out with Patrick Gibbs, and we're always like, I'll say my thing, and like I think he'll just be like laughing because he knows he's just gonna say the opposite of whatever I just said. What was it that just happened? Venom 2. Weirdly enough, I was like, this is fun, and I don't care if people think that it's stupid because it's supposed to be stupid.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, really? What's wrong with you? And
yeah,
then
we were on
Venom went and took box office numbers.
Yeah, we were on the same page with that one.
Yep.
But Ryan, have you ever had anything like that?
Well, I've only been to one advanced screening in my life, and it was Operation Finale, that World War II movie with Oscar Isaac. It was good, but it's weird. I've never been back for one because it's in Orlando, and I got to drive an hour and a half just to get there. So
that's long.
I could either do that or wait until it comes out and drive to the theater that's literally 5 minutes away from me. So,
but have you ever had where you're with a group and everybody else is like really enjoying something and you didn't really get it?
No, I can safely say that all of my group theater going experiences have just been a lot of fun. I remember, I think it was the 2012 Les Mis. It was either, no, wait, it was Les Mis. It was the 2012 Les Mis, and I was still in my theater phase, and so I think we were all doing Titanic the musical around that time, and so we were all like, after rehearsal, let's just go see Les Mis together. And sure enough, we did, and it was weird because that movie is really dark, but it was really weirdly fun all at the same time because I got to cry next to people who were crying, so no one was judging me.
Nice. Well, I'll start off with one that actually was more of a positive one that I thought of, and I got to talk about. Should I? Let me think. What I consider a foundation movie is definitely, I'd have to talk about The Little Mermaid. And that's very expected. People on my channel, if they've heard this, they know how much I love The Little Mermaid. I still love The Little Mermaid, but it was really the first movie, maybe Sleeping Beauty before that, because I was just a big fan of fairy tales and a big fan of princess movies. And it was the first one since Sleeping Beauty for Disney. And it came out like the perfect time for me when I was 8. And I loved that movie so much. I watched it over and over and over and over again. My brother would be so annoyed. But I just loved the music. I love the story, of Ariel figuring out where she belongs. And I love Ursula. She's hilarious. And, I don't know, just again, all the songs. And I still love it to this day. It's still one of my favorite movies. So it's got to be a foundation movie. It's really the first for me.
This poor, unfortunate soul.
Yeah.
So sad. So
what did you think of the Queen Latifah version?
I actually haven't Queen Latifah.
Isn't it her that's
the
doing
stage
Ursula?
play?
Yeah, wasn't she Ursula at one point? I remember watching a clip of it, and she was killing that role.
Yeah. Was it Queen Latifah? I don't remember. I feel like I saw it, but I can't remember what I thought about it. I felt bad for L.A. Cavallo because I felt like people were really hard on her about it. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Broadway musical. I don't know why we needed to have Ursula and Triton be siblings. That was not good. And
dear.
I don't know. I'm very mixed on. I mean, in general, I love a musical no matter what. It has to be really bad for me to not enjoy it. But but I think that the Disney musicals have been a mixed bag as far as the stage Broadway adaptations. I'm not a huge fan of the Mary Poppins. I'm not a big fan of the Tarzan or the Little Mermaid adaptations. The Beauty and the Beast was great. The Lion King was great. What else? Other ones? I'm trying to think. But yeah, they were a mixed bag, I would say. But yeah, what, Ryan, was your first foundation movie?
So for my first foundation movie, and these picks are kind of gonna go in chronological order for me of when I saw it, just because I established a special connection with them when I first saw them. And I think for my first one, I think the first movie I ever saw was Monsters Inc. with my dad, and I think that'll be an honorable mention. However, the first movie that I was like I connected to the most, that would probably be Treasure Planet from 2002. Rachel knows full and well how much I love this movie. I was actually on a Talking Disney with her in Stanford about it. She was gracious enough to invite me and my allergies onto the show. But this movie is just so much fun, and it's gotten so much better the more that I have seen it. It's so imaginative, it's so fun, and it's got just a great message. Like, I love the message of always know who you are, which is cheesy from the song, but there it is. So I love the movie to pieces, and I kind of get the criticism of it's steampunk. What is up with all of that? And I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand, but I mean, it's just try and have fun with it. I just people to try and have fun with it. That's all.
Yes, we have the same directors for both of our picks.
Oh yeah, the
Clements and Musker.
There you go. Yeah.
So Patrick, what's your next pick?
My next pick, it's not necessarily chronological, but this was in high school. The Hollywood Video that was down on Bluff Street in St. George was closing down. And this was during the time where all of these big video rental places were closing, right? So I don't know if you remember, there's always a big sale. There's a bunch that needed to go that they were doing for 99 cents, just take it and leave. There were some that were the big blockbusters that they up the price on. And me being a very what is the best word to say this, Rachel? Caged Mormon dying for R-rated movies. I don't know what the right word for that is. Yes. But I went in. I was like, all right, where's the R-rated? Where's some stuff I can hide from my parents and watch on my laptop in my room? And I came across a movie called Once, and this is from Glenn Hansard and Marquette Irglova. They did a Broadway show as well for this, and I didn't know about the Broadway show. I had known the Falling Slowly song, but I hadn't known that this had any connection to it. So when I first watched the movie, it changed the idea for me of what a romantic drama film could be, that these aren't necessarily characters that are meant to be together. And it's one of those, like, we've seen so many of these done lately where it's like this one night where you get to be with this person, and in the end you leave and you're mutual friends and stuff. But they took a very real look at this and at these two characters and their relationships, and how they want to grow past whatever their own relationship is with each other, but still appreciate the time that they have. And that it was tough to even wrap my head around growing up, because just like, I just would hope for a girlfriend and maybe that'd be cool. But to see like what love is for some people versus like someone that's wanting to be with somebody else for a while. It's a very good movie, and it's got great music. If you haven't watched or listened to any of the music for this, do yourself a favor, because those are some of the best songs out there.
It's so good. I absolutely love Once
Oh, and it's on
I
Hulu. You can check it out on Hulu.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's a beautiful movie and a surprising movie. It doesn't necessarily end the way you expect it to, which is nice for a romance, like you're saying. And yeah, it's lovely. And really, like the only reason it's rated R is because of language. So
Yep, that was the other thing that surprised me. I was just watching it and I was like, there's a couple swear words, but it's in Irish. I don't know if that counts.
yeah, yeah, very good. Well, my next foundation movie, I'm moving up to when I was in high school, or no, middle school, and I saw Jurassic Park for the first time.
Nice.
That was a very, very influential film for me. I just remember it's still the movie I've seen the most in the theater. I just went over and over and over again, and it was in the theater for like the whole year. I think 94. It was in the theater the whole year, whether it was at the dollar theater or the regular theater. And I just was blown away by the dinosaurs and by the story and the characters and the music and everything. And I saw it fairly recently on the big screen, and I saw it at the drive-in. It was the first movie that I saw in the drive-in during quarantine, and I was just like bawling my eyes out because it meant so much to me, because I had been without, going to the movies for months and going to the drive-in and watching one of my favorite movies with Jurassic Park. It was really emotional for me. I just love it. I think it's so much more than just a spectacle movie, because you have really well written, really well done characters. And it's something that all of the sequels, in my opinion, have missed, and something that most spectacle entertainment misses is having good writing and good characters, and not just the spectacle. So it's one of my favorites, and I had to put it on my list. So
To pull a joke from a Nostalgia Critic video, good luck getting this damn song out of your head. It will be there for several weeks or till you're dead.
I don't know if you could even see past this, but Jurassic Park is right there.
I see it.
Yeah. That was actually me and my wife. She walked down the aisle to Jurassic Park.
No way.
Yeah, we found the Piano Guys version of the dun 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 dun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cute.
Right, but it was slowed down. It was like, ooh, this is a little sexy now. Now there's a T-Rex and he's like sauntering, like walking past.
That's cute. I love that. I didn't know that. That's great. Well, Ryan, what's your next pick?
So my next choice, and going in chronological again, this is a bit of a bigger leap forward to when I was just starting in theater, and this is a weird choice of a musical to fall in love with, but again, it's also kind of not. I'm choosing Fiddler on the Roof. This is streaming on Hoopla, and this is a musical that I'm not even Jewish, but I relate to everything happening here. It's so, to make a long story short, it's about a milkman named Tevye who is trying to follow the traditions of the Jewish traditions that he has laid out before him in an ever-changing world. This takes place in early 1900s Russia, and everything is just going amok with the czars and just everything like that. And what I love about this is the songs are all awesome, especially in this version. Topol should have won the Oscar for his performance, because he can be very silly, but he can also be very like, I'm struggling to find the words, but he can be very like mellow.
Tender.
Thank you. That's it. his goal in life is to just get enough money to take care of his family and then just to go to church. Like, how deep is that? Like, there's literally a lyric in the song if I were a rich man is, and if I were rich, I'd have the time to sit in the synagogue and pray and maybe have a seat by the eastern wall, and I discuss the holy books with the learned men 7 hours every day, and that would be the sweetest thing of all. It's like, wow, it's just it really says something. And then all the acting in this version is great as well. The songs, like I mentioned, are awesome. You can go from the highs of highs to the lowest of lows, especially at a certain dinner party. I'm sure you all, or not dinner party, but a wedding. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. And this movie is 3 hours long, so I should recommend that if you do go see it, be prepared. There is an intermission, so look out for that. However, if you're new to musicals, I think you don't have to like musicals in order to like Fiddler on the Roof. It's such a compelling story that it being a musical just becomes secondary at one point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all three of us are musical fans, so we really should do a stream sometime where we just talk about musicals.
That'd be fun.
Overdue.
And that would be really fun, especially after this year.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
musical mania running wild.
I love Fiddler on the Roof, both play and movie. I think it is so touching and funny, and who can't relate to it that's been from a family with, I don't know, it's just so easy to relate with.
I love Tevia's dancing. Like, that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
And literally every Tevye, whether it be Broadway or like in other places, have just copied that dance. I'm pretty sure kind of Topple broke the character just on the dancing by itself.
Yeah.
And Topple has been in other movies too, like he was in Flash Gordon in 1980, so he got around. However, he's Tevye. There is like no getting around that.
Yeah, I love Goldie's Dream. That's one of my favorites. That's really funny.
That scene goes so crazy.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. Well, Patrick, what?
I can't go up higher, but
Patrick, what is your next pick?
Wait, you didn't pick one of yours.
Wait, isn't it your turn next?
No, you didn't. It was
Rachel. Did you already go? I thought you went to.
So I've had Little Mermaid and Jurassic Park.
Okay. Yep, yeah. We go back to me. All right. It's one of those days, people. So this is kind of going back more towards childhood stuff, and I told you last time, I'll say it again. These are basic white boy picks for being a young kid and not having a lot of superhero movies out. So you only had so many things, but the Michael Keaton Batman and Batman Returns, I can't deny. They're the things that made me love movies. Like love what a big fun blockbuster film could possibly be. Not only that, but seeing like this character that it comes to life in a way that really, other than Superman, had never been done at the time. And me growing up, it was kind of one of the darkest films that I could watch as a kid. Like Batman Returns is not for kids. And the fact that they did a McDonald's run to try to sell toys, there's a reason they didn't bring Tim Burton back, because that's crazy to try to be like, no, the penguin, when he's bleeding that black goop, that's for kids. That's totally, get that slime for them. It'll be like a candy, it'll fizz down, whatever, But
not to mention some of the innuendo. Ooh.
Oh yeah, my flipper trick. Oh my goodness. There's so much with that when you watch later, you're like, wow, okay, it went over my head. But at the same time, it's a Christmas movie. But in any case, those two movies were incredibly informative. I cannot wait to see Michael Keaton back in the suit. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's a cash grab. He's just getting paid tons of money. You can get paid tons of money and still have fun getting back into your role.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that. And yeah, there's so many things have been said about these two films. I'll just leave it at they were an instrumental part of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shout out to Prince for crafting an excellent.
Shout out to Prince. Yes,
an excellent soundtrack, especially Party Man. Like that's one of my favorite scenes in any Batman movie, where Nicholson just goes into the art gallery and he's like, "Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds, Lawrence," and then they just tear the place apart. It's
except for
awesome.
the one picture because he likes that one.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I have to say I did not grow up with these movies. I didn't watch them until just before the Batman v Superman release.
What?
And
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't really get it. I do think they are kind of movies that you have to have grown up with a little bit to love. But that I totally understand why, because everybody's kind of like me with Jurassic Park. Like I'm sure somebody that that hadn't seen it when I saw it and grown up with it would be able to find the flaws and everything. But I had never seen them. I'd seen the Schumacher ones, oddly enough, and I thought they were terrible.
That's hilarious.
That's a bad place to start. Bad.
I mean, there's nowhere else to go but up after
Yeah.
you started with those, right? Were you watching the animated at all before Schumacher, or was it?
I did
half and
watch
half?
Batman the Animated Series. That's a strange
Well,
because I
there you
always
go,
loved
'cause that's
animation.
Tim Burton-esque. They framed a lot of that off of the Tim Burton films and the animated, like the
just didn't
cartoons. and stuff.
feel like there was. I mean, this is a podcast to celebrate, so we don't need to hear my criticisms. But I just felt like that there wasn't really much of a story, and we hardly got any Batman in the movie. Like
Batman Returns, I honestly once 2016 hit and you go back and watch that, you see a lot of stuff that's like, whoa, okay. Tim Burton was talking about feminism. Tim Burton's talking about money and politics. He's talking about.
I do think it's a better movie than the first Batman, but all the time spent with Kim Basinger and the other guy was just like boring to me. And
that's true. That Robert Wool and yeah, there's not a lot there. But Michelle Pfeiffer, oh, incredible.
Yeah, in return, she's good. I didn't like the whole plot of Penguin running for governor or mayor or whatever.
But that was the thing.
Boring.
That was like the Max Shrek kind of. I don't know. I'll throw the Trump word in because there's lots of parallels to this when you watch it. You're like, yikes.
I mean, I haven't watched it.
It's like, I'll get him, Dad. And it's like, oh no.
I haven't watched it since 2016, I guess. So maybe I should give it another try. But
just watch that one. Don't watch the first Batman. Just go into this one with some Christmas feeling. I know this isn't a Hallmark movie, so it's tough to recommend to people.
I do love Superman the movie though. I've always been a big Superman fan. So.
Superman 2 as well.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Love that. Yeah. So that's a fun one. I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to that pick. All right, my next pick, we are moving to. They're actually going to do two picks that were movies that are very different that were very influential for me in high school. The first is Clueless. Clueless was the second comedy. Home Alone was the first comedy I really fell in love with, and that was in 1990 when I was almost 10. But then Clueless was the next comedy that I fell in love with. And I just remember going to school after watching Clueless and feeling like they got it. They totally got it. And, just the way that she describes the cliques and the way she describes the, trying to fit in and the makeover and the script is so funny. Even to this day, I still just die laughing at things like the Haitian speech is so funny. And when she's talking about her diet and she lists off all these things, it's like 6 Skittles, 5 pretzels. I'm such a heifer. I still love it. I still think it's hilarious. And it's sad for me now because Brittany Murphy's gone, but I still love to watch it. And then the other one from high school, like I said, totally different, but and you can watch Clueless on HBO Max and Jurassic Park. But the other one that was very influential for me was actually the movie Hoop Dreams. And,
oh, nice.
Yes. And this was certainly the first documentary, the first movie like that I had ever seen. And I before that, I had kind of ideas about people that were on welfare, people that were, I had these prejudices. And then I watched it and I was just so moved by their story. And it kind of taught me, Roger Beatty always would talk about the fact that movies are machines for creating empathy and they allow you to kind of walk in somebody's shoes. And I think that Hoop Dreams was the first movie that really impacted me in that way. And to be able to I mean, they spent like 7 years with this, family, and it's more than just the basketball. It's about these boys and their families. And I think one of the most triumphant moments of the movie is when one of the boys, his mother, graduates with her nursing degree, and you've seen all that she's gone through, and it's such an amazing moment. And so that movie really impacted me a lot, and it was also one of the first like longer movies that I ever really loved, and it's just very, very influential. So that you can watch also on HBO Max. So
nice.
Yeah. Have either of you seen? I mean, I assume you've seen Clueless.
Oh yeah, and seeing like well, first, like, at least Silverstone's awesome, and if you check out her TikTok, she's always doing stuff that's related to Clueless, and
really?
like paying homages to stuff, and she even, funny enough, does a little bit of Batgirl stuff with the Joel Schumacher Batman. She talks a little bit about that. I'm like, good for you. George Clooney cries whenever someone asks him this question, but you're embracing it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think the Brittany Murphy documentary also did a good job of showcasing like how integral to Clueless Brittany Murphy was in her character.
I agree.
So I'm with you. That movie's great.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Ryan, what is your next pick?
So my next choice, and this is a movie that has a lot of memories attached for me because I was on the ground floor of this fandom, and I don't think we will ever see its like again. And I have the poster of it still hanging. You all cannot see it, but it's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. This movie has a lot of memories for me. I went to the midnight premiere of it at my local theater. It was built in 2009. The first movie I saw in there was Avatar. So that's how far back it goes, and that's how long I've been going to that particular theater. If a pandemic can't kill it, nothing can, but that's neither here nor there. Deathly Hallows Part 2 was about as good an ending to the Harry Potter movie series as we could ever hope for. Please stop making Fantastic Beasts movies, for the love of God. But again, that's what you win. But that's neither here nor there. Like I said, this was about as perfect an ending as you could ever ask for. I was lucky enough to get the first copy at my local library of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and I breezed right on through it. I had to read with the audiobook because it's Jim Dale doing it, so and he's fantastic. And I was just on the edge of my seat, just like page. I'm surprised I even sleep during that time. And then when that twist happened with the Snape, should I say it? I mean, the movie is over 10 years old by now, which is weird, but should I say
don't say that? That was the thing you shouldn't have said. Is that it's 10 years old? That just hurt me a little bit.
I'm sorry about that.
No, spoil it. It's been a year. Yeah.
So it turns out Snape was basically a spy for Dumbledore, and that secretly had a love for Harry Potter, like Harry was his own son, and that all the harshness towards him was just kind of a defense mechanism, which at first I was like, no, I do not agree with this, because I was bullied my whole life, and I saw Snape as just one big bully, even though later I would appreciate Alan Rickman for his performance of that. I was just like, Snape, you're POS. And just to have him be like, oh, hey, he was an ally this whole time. It was like, no, I don't agree with that. Now that I've gotten older, I understand and respect it, and it was actually quite a good choice. And especially Alan Rickman's final moments in that movie where he says, you have your mom's eyes. Bro, that is just heartbreaking every time. And the final battle is just... I could talk about this movie for days. When Molly Weasley just completely wrecks Bellatrix Lestrange, my theater cheered. I have never seen anything before in my life.
When this was Endgame before Endgame happened. It really was.
Endgame wasn't even like that. Like, just kids, like my age at the time, when Bellatrix Lestrange just went poof, everyone was like, yeah! They were like bouncing off the walls. Babies were being thrown in the air. It was just
what theater are you in? Throwing babies in the air.
The beautiful moment for humanity. And I chose this one because I have never experienced anything like that before or since, and I don't think anything like that will ever happen again. Like, I've been to MCU movies, been to Star Wars movies, like the recent ones. Nothing has come close. And maybe it's my nostalgia talking, but maybe it was just my memories of being super tired that day. But I went with my friends, and we were just all like just drained. It was like, oh wow, it was an experience. That's all I can say. And the movie's really good too. I should say that.
That is a really good movie. I actually saw that as my first movie back into theaters, believe it or not, after quarantine. And they were when they were still doing kind of older movies and things like that, trying to get people to come. And so I went to the Sierra Shell in Orem, and they were opening. They were like the first theater to open, and so they have this amazing, huge theater. And I saw Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows 2, and that was really, really good. So it's a good pick.
Which poster do you have, Ryan? I have this one.
Oh, that's a good one, but hopefully this will work for me. But I have the one that says "It All Ends."
Oh, very cool.
I see it.
And the
Yeah.
thing about that poster, it's next to the Jersey Boys one signed by the original cast, by the way. The thing about that original poster was that it was pretty much given out to everybody. Like, as soon as we walked into the theater to get concessions and everything, they were all just sitting on the table, and they were just like, "Take them." And so I'm like, I took them, and I hung it up there, and I'm never taking it down.
Very cool. All right, Patrick, what's your next pick?
So now we're dipping our toes in the comedy realm, and this one was kind of tough because I was the first pick was Office Space, honestly, because I was like, well, Office Space, super formative, and like I only just recently saw it a few years ago. But what's the one that like it formed my comedy? Like when you hear stuff from me, you're gonna get an essence of this, and to me, it was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Like I think that so my dad was a principal at a few schools, and during the summer he would still have to come into work. So I got free reign to kind of run around every classroom I wanted, go through the library, read all the books. And okay, I didn't read any books. I got the TV and I rolled it into a classroom, and I would put on Holy Grail on repeat throughout the day, just running around to teachers quoting nee, and like saying whatever thing they wanted to say. Like it is hilarious. It formed some of my acting too, because in drama in middle school, we did like little snippets of different scripts and different monologues, different scenes, and I was King Arthur for most of like the Monty Python stuff that we would do. So we did the coconut stuff, we did the weird geopolitical stuff with the filth. Like it was hilarious, and it still to this day, every time I watch it, everything still works. The jokes, they're just timeless in how well they're formulated. And though I don't know, maybe somebody would think like it's a little too cheesy for them, like it is a specific style of humor, you know. To me, like if you know me, you know Monty Python a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, my brother would quote that movie all day, every day, and so then I finally watched it, and I was like, yes, this is hilarious. Good choice.
I legit just watched this movie the other night. I was like,
No way.
oh wow, I was feeling a certain kind of way, and I was like, what to watch? I've been through a Christmas movie binge because I've got a Christmas review series coming up. Spoiler, I'll be talking about that at the end. But I was like, I just want to I want to palate cleanse with something, and then I was like, Monty Python. I have that DVD, and sure enough, it was right there, and I watched it, and yeah, that movie is just, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Terry Jones. And that whole crew, they were way ahead of their time. They would never fly today for a lot of reasons, but their material will just endure forever and ever and ever and ever. Even in Holy Grail, the whole thing with the Black Knight, 'tis but a scratch. Your arm is off. and John Cleese being multiple people somehow, including the oddly French knight. It was like, who was like, I fought in your general direction, and just all that whole thing.
Brave Sir Robin, who comes from Camelot. And they just list all the things that'll happen to him. His eyes plucked out, and his
On second thought, let's not go to Camelot. 'Tis a silly place.
Or them doing the whole wooden forge thing and trying to bring that in, and they just shoot it out. Like, they have a huge catapult on top of the French castle. It's
Run
amazing.
away!
Or
Run
the
away!
big fight scene. They just stop the whole thing right before.
It's like the cops show up and they're like, "All right, everybody in. Let's go. Let's go. We've gone over budget." And then it's
Do you have
just
a
that
favorite
weird.
moment in the movie? You two, both of you, or
The
segment, I
Brave Knight.
suppose.
The Brave Knight. Just a small scratch. You're heavily injured. You coward.
I love the bridge, and I love the white rabbit. I think those are great.
Yeah, those are really funny.
I love the moment when God talks to them. He's like, "Arthur, King of the Britons."
Yeah.
Bullseye, right?
Very good. All right. Well, my next pick is we're moving up to, I think, one of the reasons that I got noticed by Rotten Tomatoes was a review that I wrote for Rotoscopers where I covered Black Panther. And so that's a very sort of memorable review. I think it's one of the best reviews I've ever written. And I talked about the difference between Killmonger and T'Challa and how the fact that Killmonger had been raised outside of Wakanda and how he saw, his birth father as being a coward and not standing up for all of this poor treatment and all of the things that Wakanda could have fought for. And then you have T'Challa, who loves and adores his father, and he's sort of realizing that his father was flawed as he's getting to have to work with Killmonger. But then Killmonger takes it to this dark place where not only do they need to kind of stand up for what is right, but he wants revenge on all of these people that have hurt him and hurt other marginalized groups. So he wants to go out and kill people. He takes us to this place. And I just thought that was really moving and beautiful. And the dynamic between the two of them. And, like other people were complaining about special effects, and that didn't matter to me at all. I didn't care about that. What I cared about was the characters. And I thought the characters were really well done and their dynamic. And so that's what I talked about in the review. And so it was a very memorable review for me. Like I said, I think it's one of the best I've ever written. So I could go with Black Panther on Disney Plus.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a show on Disney XD called Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Rachel, I recommended it 1,000 years ago on the show, and that was my first exposure to Black Panther. And when I heard that he was going to be in Civil War, I was like, I'm sold. Like, even before Chadwick Boseman was announced, like, I just loved Black Panther. I loved the fact that he was essentially like he lived in this micronation, but it was like super rich, and it was sitting on the largest bed of the most precious resource in the world. I loved that. I loved what they could do with it. And I had no idea just how the Black Panther movie would just resonate with pretty much everybody. It just, it was at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for like the longest time until somebody dropped it to 99. But it was at 100 for like the longest time. Like, everybody loves this movie. I saw it in theaters 3 times, 2 times, like once by myself, once with my dad, and one more time because I decided to do that and Infinity War at the same time on the same day. And so the timing just all worked out perfectly.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of my review, I wrote, which leader is right? There isn't an easy answer to the question. That's what makes Black Panther great. Not only do we as audience members struggle to decide who is right, but so do the characters in the film. Some remain loyal to country and T'Challa, and others respond to Killmonger's leadership and point of view. And Black Panther is also a movie that means a lot to African-American audiences who deserve to see awesome versions of themselves on screen. Plus, people of any race can benefit from seeing diversity represented in the right way with quality films. Sure, there have been Black superheroes in the past, Blade, Hancock, for instance, but this is the most culturally inspired and that meant something to a lot of people. So there we go.
I think you're right with that. And not only that, but like the character T'Challa is so unique in Black cinema, I suppose, because whenever you're looking at a protagonist in any Black film, they usually are coming from struggle or for something that's like they had to work their way to get up to this, or they had to start somewhere that maybe not have been someone that's a role model to look up to, and then become that thing, right? With T'Challa, he has to acknowledge his own privilege. He has to acknowledge the weight of a king, but he also holds himself in this way that anybody could look up to and say, this is somebody that knows how to maintain his composure, that knows how to make smart, helpful, and loving decisions for not only himself but for his family, for his people. That's something that just didn't, I mean, other than coming to America, there really wasn't anything like that. And so it's a huge part of why I think they're having a tough time with Wakanda Forever on what they're going to be doing moving forward. I don't know exactly what the ins and outs are in that production, but it definitely feels like there's a vacuum, and it's very tough to figure out how we could fill that. Rest in peace, Chad.
Yeah, I don't envy them having to figure that out. I'll tell you that.
You know, there's a part of me that really doesn't want to see a Black Panther sequel. I mean, it made all the money, so fiscally it is a wise move. However, like Chadwick Boseman, like when he passed, it was like everyone was just heartbroken. Like all of us were collectively heartbroken. And this is coming from someone who loved him as T'Challa, but I remember him as Jackie Robinson from 42 and in Draft Day, which is a really underrated football movie. And just
Jackie Brown.
There you go.
Jackson Brown.
Or, Come On Up.
Yeah. I think it's Get On Up. I don't know. There's lots.
James Brown.
James Brown. Ugh, I'm so out of it.
So he's a great actor, and of course he'll always be remembered for Black Panther. But he was in a lot of movies, and I think he should be remembered for those as well. But I mean, Wakanda Forever, it's just wow. What are they going to do?
Tough.
I do think they should keep T'Challa as a character, and I know that might be a little controversial, but the way I see it, this character means more to the community than sadly what one actor could bring to it, even though he brought everything to it, literally everything. I think this character is so strong, though.
And we have had different actors, particularly obviously for Hulk, come in and play. So it's not like it's unheard of in the MCU. So,
well, whoever they cast is going to have the most thankless job in the world.
Oh, I know.
Like it could be literally Idris Elba, and nobody dislikes Idris Elba, and people are going to be like, the Nebraska Idris Elba.
But he's already in the MCU, so it's like, who do you pick?
I know
that's not already a character in the MCU.
I would say Daniel Kaluuya, but he's already in the Black Panther universe. So
perhaps like Keith Stanfield, I could possibly see that
in the MCU.
That's
not yet.
That's actually not that bad of a choice. So it remains to be seen, and of course, none of us are involved in the process. So all we can do is do the armchair special.
But we all can agree that like whatever they do, they have our support, because it's just that the movie itself is a thankless job right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm pulling for all filmmakers. Like, I want movies to be good. Like, the people that are like, I hate all DC movies or I hate Marvel movies, they're just stupid. It's completely ridiculous. Like, you should want people to succeed. You should go into like, especially if you're gonna watch the movie, like, why are you wasting your time? Like even something that I'm incredibly skeptical of, like the next Fantastic Beasts movie, I'm not gonna waste my time. Like, I'm gonna hope it's good. Like,
you know what? I have no hope for it. I hate that.
I'm incredibly skeptical. I hated the last one so much, but you got to do it as a critic. You got to have an open mind. It's just
I got a better idea in like 3 seconds. You ready? Let's go. A Kingsman Matthew Vaughn film, but about oars. Boom. Way better than Fantastic Beasts. Right out the
Anything is better than the second Fantastic Beasts movie. It was one of the worst, if not the worst blockbusters I've ever seen in my life. I hated it. But I still, you got to go. If you're going to take the time to screen a film, especially if you're going to an early screener, you have to have an open mind. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. So what else? But anyway, let's see. Where were we? I've lost my
I think it's
place.
Ryan next,
Okay,
right?
I just went. So Ryan, your turn.
So my next choice, and this requires a bit of context. So when I was going to high school, I was involved in a dual enrollment program. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it, but to make a long story short, in exchange for 2 high school classes, I could take 2 college classes and use the credits for when I go to college full time. I could use it for them. And so I took 2 classes I think it was like 6 in total, but I took 2 in my sophomore year of high school. And one of those classes was called Scientific Themes in Film, where we would meet up. We would get assigned a sci-fi movie. We would watch it. We would write up a report on it, and then we would come back and we would talk about it. And of course, there would be like science tests, and we'd learn about certain scientific principles and all, and so that sort of thing. But the movies were used in the curriculum as like a way to tie into what we were learning. So, for example, we watched Waterworld, and then we learned about, I believe it was, I'm not sure. I'd have to look up the curriculum, but it was like we would watch Waterworld, and it would relate to that science, which seems like a weird movie to talk about in a science class, but there it is. But my next choice is Frankenstein from 1931, and I'm choosing that because that was the first movie that we watched in that class. I had never seen it before. I had heard of it, like it's alive and all that sort of thing. I knew the cultural impact, but I did not expect what was going to happen from seeing the movie. And I've seen it several times since then, and it has just gotten better and better. I've seen worse horror movies this year than a horror movie from 1931 without an ounce of CGI, all done practically. It just movies like this don't get made anymore for a variety of reasons. Boris Karloff is a treasure. He was just a great actor, and of course, I know him from movies like, say, The Black Cat or The Mummy, where he was just a fantastic like verbalizer, but he was unfortunately known for more of his like stuff like Frankenstein and the butler from the old dark house. That was what he was known as. However, he was the best Frankenstein in movie history, and he kind of broke the mold a little bit. Jack Pierce's excellent design, just that whole thing. And not only is it a great monster movie, it's a great horror movie in its own right. You got Colin Clive as Henry Frankenstein, which was just a great choice. You have everything going on with him and with Igor, just that whole thing. And I could talk about the OG Frankenstein for days and days and days. It's like pivotal to the history of horror movies. Like every monster movie, at least involving like humans playing God movies, can be traced back to 1931's Frankenstein. I don't think it may have innovated it, but it made it popular, at least from my view.
Yeah, I actually just watched this for the first time in October for my Blind Spot series that I do, where I watch heralded films I haven't seen and I do review. I just watched it, so that was really interesting that you mentioned it. But yeah, it's a great movie. It's got really good characters. It's not just sufficient to lean on the spectacle like I talked about with Jurassic Park. It actually has good characters and good writing. And you can see how influential it was watching it now on so many movies. I mean, some are directly parodying like Young Frankenstein, which I love. But yeah, I randomly had seen all of these films that it was very influential of, like Frankenweenie and Young Frankenstein, and the list goes on, before I'd actually seen the original film. But it's a great pick. Yeah.
Yeah, and also this movie has one of the best openings ever, where it's just the doctor character, and I believe it was Edward Van Sloan. I'm blanking on it, but Edward Van Sloan in a tuxedo who walks out and he's like, "Good evening. The movie you are about to watch may potentially shock you. It may even frighten you. So if you want to leave, it's basically, if you want to leave now, leave now." But And I love his words at the end. He's like, "Well, that was your chance." And then the movie starts. Like movies need more openings like that. I need
Yeah.
like Steven Spielberg to walk out in a tuxedo for the West Side Story remake and be like, "Hi, this is West Side Story." It could literally be just that, and I would be satisfied.
Yeah. It is a little bit strange though when they do it where it's like, we worked really hard on the movie. Like it's a little strange to me when they have those kind of intros.
The new ones are weird, right?
It's like,
It's just a montage of people being like, please, please,
please
please
like
enjoy
this,
this movie.
please.
But his
You're
is like,
it's
I'm
awkward.
about to scare all of you. Do you
Yeah.
want out of this house or not?
Right.
Like, I love that.
Yeah, that's why the Frankenstein intro is so great. It's like this dude just saying, "This is the scariest movie of all time. You've been warned. Go in."
All right. Well, let's all do. I think we each have one more
Yep.
in our list. Okay.
I'm on my last one at least.
Okay, Patrick, what's your last?
All right, and I gotta say these were in no unnecessary order. So this, because this is the last one, doesn't mean this is like my all-time favorite.
Right,
but again, had a big connection with me in my formative years, so I gotta do it. Return of the Jedi. It's still my favorite Star Wars movie. It'll never not be. And Rise of Skywalker will always be my worst because Return of the Jedi is my favorite. I think not only do you get so much with Luke and the completion that we thought at that point of his arc. We also got to see Ewoks, which are amazing. You got to go to the Redwood Forest where they filmed all the stuff, and I got to be there experiencing like the actual stuff that they were filming at, and like just feeling so immersed in this Star Wars world. This movie was the one that gave that to me. Not only that, but when you come from a family that are divorced, or that there's any type of weird situation with your relationship with parents or something, that Star Wars has a lot to say about parentage and about what it means to be forgiving, what it means to love your family and overlook certain obstacles, and even accept them for who they are as well, but still look to find good in that person. It's stuff that is real tough for a kid to really be able to like watch lightsaber fights and goes, "Oh, it's about my dad," or something weird like that. You're definitely on the surface looking at the lightsaber duels and just loving that, but the more you watch it growing up, the more you see the influence and you see the love that Star Wars actually is. It's not what this infighting stuff is now. I don't know where that came from, but back during the original trilogy, and even for an extent the prequels, they just didn't have the crazy vitriol that's going on right now in that fandom. So I like thinking about how great that last film in the original trilogy was, and what it meant to me. Thank you for letting me talk about all this, by the way. This was fun.
Yeah, this was really fun. Yeah, it's a great film. I really enjoy it too. I actually love the original Star Wars. It's my favorite. It's always been my favorite.
I know mine's not the favorite for anyone else's. I that's why I go so hard on it. It's like, that's mine.
No, it's a really good movie though. It's very entertaining, and and yeah, the emotion that's in the film is really, really well done. Yeah. What's your favorite, Ryan? Star Wars?
I'm an Empire Strikes Back fan myself.
Nice.
And there's so many scenes in that movie, like when Lando betrays Han and Darth Vader's like, "We would be honored if you would join us." Like, bro, it's just...
It's
We're wearing
so
kind of color palettes to it. Like blue has always been A New Hope for me. Red feels kind of like Empire Strikes Back, and this looked kind of green, but it's not very green anymore. Now that I look down at the shirt, kind of returned. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite scene in Return of the Jedi. Actually, let me say this. A couple years back, my dad and I went to a performing arts center in Orlando, the Dr. Phillips Center, and they had Return of the Jedi, but with a live orchestra. And I
just did that with Back to the Future.
I gotta tell you, if you all can do it, if performing arts centers are open, like do what you can to like see a movie but with an orchestra. It's like, what's the difference? It makes all the difference. It adds so much to just like the ambiance of it. And the other thing I wanted to mention, my favorite scene in Return of the Jedi is when, after everything has happened, Emperor has fallen down the power shaft where he stayed dead. Let's repeat that. Where he stayed dead. Where he stayed dead. After everyone's abandoning the Death Star, like Vader's just out of it. He's on like death's door, and then he looks up to him. And he's like, Luke, take my mask off. And Luke's like, but you'll die. And then eventually Luke does it, and then he just opens it up, and you're just like, oh my word. And you see just what we later learn as Anakin Skywalker, just how terrible he looks. He's like pasty white. He's got no hair. He's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. But I love that scene where it's like what you were talking about, Patrick, with forgiveness. Just the whole thing just kind of washes away, especially when you know the context of Vader was basically a puppet for the Emperor. He didn't want any of this, but he was forced into it. And so
no pun intended.
I just didn't realize that was a pun there. But that's my favorite scene.
It's a great scene. A great scene. Well, my last pick is a movie that came out last year it was like in August, right when people were just barely, at least here in Utah, starting to go back to the theaters. It's called Words on Bathroom Walls. And the reason why I decided to talk about this is because it was such a motivating film for me to keep doing what I'm doing, that even if you don't reach a ton of people, you still reach maybe the right people, and that it's worth it. Because what happens, so this movie, Words on Bathroom Walls, it is about this Charlie Plummer, who's an incredible actor. He's like one of the best talents that we have working today. Young talents. He's great. He plays this young man who has schizophrenia, and this kind of the struggles to deal with this schizophrenia, and to because you start to realize you have schizophrenia when you're older, and so he's just starting to deal with it. And I really thought the movie was moving, and I enjoyed it. And I wrote the review, and I said in my review, like, I have no knowledge of schizophrenia at all. I have no idea what it's like. I have no idea. So, like, if anybody's reading this that has experience with schizophrenia, I would love to know your thoughts on the movie, and if you think it's, positive. And, I have no idea. And so I put that in my review. A couple days later, I get an email from this kid named Zach, and he says, I read your review. I really enjoyed your review. I loved the movie. And I saw that, what you said, and I have schizophrenia, and I'd love to talk to you about it. And so we chatted back and forth, and I said, hey, would you like to come on my podcast? And so I had him on Hallmarky's podcast, because that at that time has more exposure, and I wanted the word to get out. So I had him on Hallmarky's podcast as a bonus episode, and we talked, and we had an incredible conversation, and it was really moving to me. And, just because I think the whole stigma against mental illness is just such BS, and it makes me really mad. And so we had a great conversation. And then the director of Words on Bathroom Walls, named Tor Frudenthal is his name. He heard the interview, and he liked it. And so then I ended up interviewing him, and we got to talk all about it. And it was just a really great experience. And Zach, he started his own blog, and he's like talking about his experiences, and it was motivating for him. And it was just so gratifying for me to know that, like, somebody was reading my reviews, somebody was benefited by it, somebody was listening to the podcast and was benefited by it. And so that's definitely one I will never forget, that whole experience. It was great.
Well, I don't even know if I want to tell this story, because I actually recently had sort of I don't know. I'm just going to tell it. I don't know. I got a really nice comment, to make a long story short. Throughout the year on my channel, I've been reacting to all of the Ghibli movies, and for my I Finally Watched series. And I reviewed The Wind Rises, which was from 2013. I loved it, and it got pretty good views, and so I didn't really think all that much of it, and I moved on. Then, I think last Sunday night, I got a comment from someone who, the comment was so long that he added a part 2. And
Mhm.
the comment was essentially him telling me his great grandfather's life story about how he served in World War II, and that how his ship was attacked by a kamikaze, by a Zero, and the whole plot around The Wind Rises was about the inventor of the Mitsubishi Zero, which was the plane primarily used in Japan in World War II. So I don't know, Rachel, when you were telling that story, my mind was thinking about that. It's not the same as the whole schizophrenia and
Mhm.
that whole thing, but I guess what I'm trying to tie it back to is the message of no matter how far you think your reach is, if you're reaching out to somebody, that's all that matters. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to compare my story with your story. I hope that
No, I understand what you're saying. I hope that we all can have those moments as content creators where we get to realize that what we're doing is again at least helping one person, if not, lots of people. So
Mhm.
yeah,
and just the fact that this guy commented that whole thing to me, it felt really nice. It really
yeah,
did. And it,
it's
it
great.
actually happened again recently with my Encanto review. It blew up, and I actually got people from Colombia like commenting on it saying, "I can't wait to see it." And there was one commenter who was like, the woman who voices the abuela is a Colombian celebrity. Like she's
Mhm.
famous around here. And like, wow, that's cool to know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, very good. Well, Ryan, what is your last pick?
So my last pick, and this is in high school for me. My favorite class was film appreciation. Well, it was a pretty easy class, but this was the one where I was like, okay, and this was where my taste began to develop. And one of the movies that we watched was 12 Angry Men, and
Mm,
it still
good one.
remains one of my favorite movies of all time. It literally
Mm.
takes place in one room. The only other place we see are the courthouse and the outside of the courthouse. The rest of the time, it's in this room with these jurors. And Sidney Lumet just did an amazing job, not only just making it compelling, but also, even though I have seen this movie so many times, every time certain things happen, I'm just like, that's it. That's it. Like the kid's guilty. And then even though I know what happens at the end, there's still a seed of doubt. There's a little kernel of doubt to where you're like, are you sure? And then everything works out. But it really says something for a movie to where you know what's going to happen, but then there's still parts where you're like, oh no, no, please don't say that. But I feel like my words cannot do this movie justice. It is one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion. The acting is all stellar, especially from Henry Fonda, who could do no wrong, and Lee J. Cobb, who was just excellent in pretty much everything he was in, and just the battle between them, and even like smaller character actors like Jack Warden, who was in pretty much everything from The Twilight Zone to Problem Child, which is weird, but
Mm.
there we go. And I can't remember the guy's name, but he was in The Odd Couple. He's a short dude, glasses, kind of bald. Rachel, I hope you know what I mean, and as lovers of The Odd Couple. But like the movie is pretty much stuffed to the gills with character actors of the late 50s and early 60s, and it's a very nice time capsule into that. And
Mhm.
one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when, after just all this rigmarole of Lee J. Cobb just being like, the kid's guilty and you're not changing my mind. And Fonda is just like, turns to him and says, you might as well just want to throw the switch yourself. And then Cobb's like, you're right, I want to. And then Fonda just goes into this diatribe of just saying, you're thinking that you're just some kind of public avenger. You don't care about the facts. You're a sadist. And then after that, Cobb just lunges for him and he's like, I'll kill you,
Mm.
I'll kill you. And Fonda's like, you wouldn't want to kill me. But in that moment, Fonda exposes him as okay, he's he's the guy who wants it one way or the highway. And that line about the whole public avenger and not caring about the facts thing, eerily relevant today. That's all I
Mm.
will say. But anyway, 12 Angry
Yeah,
Men. It's
it's
excellent.
great. Classic. It is such a good movie, and it's established its tone so well,
Mhm.
just with the heat and with the just little details that really get you into that room and you feel like you're a part of it. It's a great pick. So
Yeah, and I live in Florida, so I know heat.
and is that on Canopy?
I believe it's on HBO Max.
Oh, HBO Max.
Let
Okay.
me take a quick look.
Yeah, I was like, HBO Max is legit.
They are. Their Turner
Yeah.
classics are crazy.
They had 3 of my picks, and The Words on Bathroom Walls. You can watch that on Amazon Prime. Just
Nice.
so there we go. We did it. This was really fun. Thank you so much for both of you for doing this. I had a great time, and I really appreciate it. This was fun. And a nice break from watching Christmas movies all day.
Right? But you're going to go right back into it.
Yes, that's right.
It's like a big breath of water. Breath of fresh air. Back in.
So, Ryan, how can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. Then there's, of course, my YouTube channel, which is just called Ryan Cam. I've got November has been a bit of a catch-up month. I didn't upload videos for a week because I was on vacation from my job, and so my brain was just like, you know what? Stop editing for a week, which was not a wise move in hindsight, but I'm back on the horse. My long-promised Denis Villeneuve ranking is now up. I reviewed Encanto literally last night, and that one did really well. I've got a House of Gucci review in the pipeline, and I hope to have the rest of the Ghibli movies reviewed by the end of the year, as well as one last Daniel Craig Bond ranking, which I promised all the way back when I saw No Time to Die, and hopefully that whole thing comes around. And then in Christmas, I'm going to be reviewing 25 Christmas movies for the 25 Days of Christmas. Name very much pending, but that's coming, and it's going to include some highlights, some possible lowlights, and some that I actually found to be pretty underrated. So that'll be all on my channel. I'm literally at 179 subscribers, so it literally just takes one of you just to get me to 180. And I'm not subscriber begging. It's just putting that energy into the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all should check it out. And Patrick, how can people find you?
Well, first, I'm going to go and follow Ryan so he gets that one more subscriber there.
I love you.
Yeah. Everyone follow suit. And check me out on patrickbeattyreviews.com. Really, everything is over there. The podcast, the YouTube channel, where to find me on the social stuff. But most importantly, I mean, this is going to sound weird, and I always feel weird asking for it, but become a Patreon. There's some weird stuff that I want to do that I just don't have the audience of Patreon to feel justified in putting like a crazy amount of effort into some of these weird ideas that I have. But I think if we can grow it at the same time as I keep putting out things, it could be pretty fun. And there are an endless amount of reviews and stuff that are coming down the pipeline. There are so many. I don't know, Rachel, if you've had your mail person give you obscenities and flip you off for how many boxes of stuff you're being sent, but it's not happened to me yet. But I keep seeing them stack up. I'm like, oh man, there's a lot to cover. Okay. But follow me there. Thank you again for having me on.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I didn't know you had a Patreon, so this is good to know.
$3. Become a geek.
Okay, I will. Yeah, and if anybody is interested that watches this today, we are having a promotion on my Patreon for my Content Plus Hallmarkies podcast. We are having a special promotion for Black Friday where you can have one of 3 Hallmark hunks. You'll be entered in a giveaway to have one of 3 Hallmark hunks record your voicemail greeting, and it's been a really great promotion for us. People are really enjoying it. But you can have Tyler Hines, Christopher Paloha, or Brendan Elliott record your voicemail. So it's gonna be super fun. So please check that out. And you can either every $1 that you are on our Patreon, or if you send a Ko-fi donation, that will count as one entry in the giveaway. So it's pretty exciting. But it has to be by the end of the day. A Black Friday. So if you hear this, then check it out. But check out the Patreon and also the merch store. We have like my shirt that I'm wearing right now. Merry Grinchmas. We have lots of fun designs, so check that out. And then also make sure you listen to the Hallmarkies podcast. We've got all of your fun recaps and interviews and all kinds of stuff going on. So take a look at that. And thanks so much to both of you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
everyone.